What's your name, my lovely young man?
It's Ryan Otto. I ran in the election here in Groom for the Australian Federation Party.
Why did you pick the Federation Party?
Because my good friend Brett Tunbridge, who is the state organiser, he asked me to personally the day before the nominations closed. And I knew nothing about the party, but I did my research. I looked at their six-part community pact, and I saw that it was holding them accountable to their local community rather than towing the party line, which I found always to be a huge problem with a federal member who's supposed to be representing constituents locally, but they're based in Canberra, and they have no interfacing with the local community. They have no cooperation with them. They're not listening to the people's voices, and that's what people want. They want to have input. They want to see how they're being represented, and I think that the Australian Federation Party platform is probably the best for that. But I didn't want to talk about my party or myself per se. Heather, was it? Who was just speaking? Hannah. Sorry, Hannah. I think that we're not fighting a war with bullets. It's a war of hearts and minds. And we can all fight just by having that conversation. And that's something that we need to be continuing and not getting demoralized, because they want us to feel demoralized and downtrodden, like we have no solution, like we're getting no traction. They're lifting the mandates and releasing the pressure so that they can kill us and kill our movement and just leave us disorganized. They did that at Epic. The Sunday morning, they fearmongered. They had plants. We know that they had actual plants, federal agents who were going in there and telling people, oh, they're going to get tanks and they're going to come in and they're going to shoot you and your kids and roll them over. And all of that was all a bluff. It's all a bluff. They wouldn't do that because that would be another Tiananmen Square.
I have to say, I was shot by a rubber bullet from an armoured vehicle on the streets of Melbourne.
Yes,
so it's a little bit true.
They did shoot rubber bullets, but they weren't going to roll in with the tanks and roll over people's tents with people in it. The other thing is people are using the red ensign and the Australian flag, and while that's a great show of patriotism, I think one of the ways that we can corner the police and the military into being completely incapacitated is one of the Geneva Conventions is you are unable to ever attack a civilian waving a white flag. And white flag, it doesn't mean surrender. It means to parley, to have...
Yeah, but the only one who wants to parley are the people who are losing.
Well... Yeah, that may be true. Yeah, but we need to be holding them accountable, and we need to be working in solidarity with each other, and making sure that we keep the organization and the networking and the love that we can see with these community events. And
that word there is great. Because their side is lacking that. Empathy is dying.
It is.
And the more we love, the more we define ourselves. Yeah. Did anyone see a show about the girl with the broken, how to fly with broken wings? The beauty of that, so this was a show about a young girl born with, she didn't grow past 8. So her body stopped growing at 8. So she's 24, she looks like an 8-year-old. And her scoliosis was bending her over, so she was going to die. Our medical prowess fixed her, and our empathy to help her medical fixed her. And then we all worked together as a community to help her become a teacher's aide despite her slight mental disability, and she was happy. So and she wrote a book called The Wind Beneath, How to Fly with Broken Wings. Now, how she flew with broken wings is she gave it everything, and we as a society became the wind beneath her wings. This new society wants to shoot her down from the sky. They're going to sack her for her health. She defines the difference between our tribes. We want to care and help and love. They want us to comply.
They want isolation and dehumanization. They want to make sure that we have no support network with our loved ones, with our family. The nuclear family is under attack, and it has been for a very long time. And it's a generational effort. It's not going to be an overnight thing, like you were saying. Russian expatriate from the Soviet Union in the 90s to America, Yuri Bezmenov, he spoke of the tactics that the Soviets used, and it wasn't James Bond's spy espionage like people often were marketed, that was what was going on. Instead, they infiltrated high society and the education system. They infiltrated the universities, and they got the minds of the teachers so they could brainwash the students. And he said that to return us to to the way that it was before, and to undo the communization of the West, it'll be a 3-generational transition of turning back all of these progressivist, I think completely anti-human ideas that are being pushed onto us. And Yuri, he talked a lot about demoralization and how they use that as a tactic in order to make people feel like they are powerless. But it's simply not the truth. And what they're afraid of is us realizing that we do actually, collectively, we do have power, and they're terrified of that, and they should be.
Yeah. Look up, if you get a chance, get online and look up an essay called The Power and the Powerless. It's by Havel. He was a Czechoslovakian playwright. He wrote this essay. It saw him in jail for 10 years. When he got out, he became the Czechoslovakian president or prime minister. President. Yeah. Now, what he talks about is if you don't like the media, create your own. That's happening. If you don't like the education system, create your own. That's happening. Counterculture. Yeah. You create a culture that people want to go to, want to be a part of, and the other side will start coming across. That's already happening all over Australia. We've seen it.
Exactly. And as we continue to build up our community and act as an example where we are supporting each other, and we are helping those who are in need, where we're doing things like harvest swap and exchanging veggies or helping each other out when we can see others in strife without work or who might have had adverse effects to the vaccine or so on. And as long as we build that culture of love and support and understanding, we will be, as you said, an alternative to the current culture of isolation and demoralization, and we'll be a beacon of light and hope for people, and that will draw people in. The vast majority of people will never actively get involved in these kinds of things unless they have their comforts and their leisure and all of their security blanket that's afforded by the government taken away, and they realize the government no longer has their best interests at heart. That's when they'll look for an alternative, and we'll be there. We will be there. As long as we don't give up and we continue and we talk to people and make sure that we're spreading awareness about these things, and we're fostering that culture, eventually we'll win over the majority. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to be even possible to just convince them to join. It's going to be hardship which will eventually push them over to our side.
Yep, I love it. There's even a way we're looking at a marketing war. Yes. You know, that COVID was a marketing. It was a masterpiece. Yes. An actual marketing masterpiece. Yep. Monkeypox isn't, because we're going, fuck off, you know. But is Hannah still here? Yep. Hannah, can you come back for a sec? One way is what they did. I'll just get you to squeeze down here. One way what they did, and this is what you guys have to do, is they somehow convinced our young people that it was cool to be compliant. Yeah. A psychologist in Canada in an interview I did said what happened was pre-COVID, a lot of young people had empty, vacuous lives. Yeah. They had gadgets but nothing in it. They came along and said, you can be a hero, you can save grandmother, you can be... And so they bought it. Yep. They did it thinking, I have a purpose in my life now, I'm saving society. They got lied to. Yep. Now we have to remarket it the other way. And so this is a trick question to both of you. Squeeze in. Right. It's a trick question. Okay. If you're a young person, is it cooler to be compliant or a freedom fighter?
What age are you defining young?
You.
20. Me? Oh, No, I reckon it started about my age when they started telling you that.
Is it cool to be a freedom fighter or a compliant? Which one?
It's much cooler to fit in and much cooler to do the right thing. Actually, the thing you said about the
that wasn't actually the answer I was after. It's cooler to be a freedom fighter.
No, I think it's cooler to be a freedom
That's
fighter.
what I'm after. Your opinion.
My opinion? Oh yeah, hell yeah, it's cool.
Your opinion. Do you think it's cooler to be a freedom fighter or a compliant?
I think it's much cooler to be a freedom fighter because you're never scared. You're never scared that someone's going to find out something about you that will change their opinion. You're like, no, this is who I am. You can't go next door and talk to my neighbour and find out that I'm a different person with them. It's just I'm the same person here as I am at the rallies, as I am at work. You're never scared that someone's going to find out that you've got a kulak mindset, that you're one of the deplorables.
and yourself, do you think it's cooler to be compliant or a freedom fighter?
Well, I think that from a very young age, we're taught in the education system to be compliant, and you can see, well, at least I did in the classroom when I was teaching, that you really can divide kids from a very young age as to those who will excel in the education system because they are the ones who comply, and the ones who are the trouble students are often the ones who don't comply, and eventually, well, they usually end up being more successful because they can think outside the box and they have that critical thinking. And that may not be cool for the majority, but it's never cool to stick out like a sore thumb and go against the grain, swim against that current. It's painful, it's hard. You have resistance and pressure, and that social pressure as a teenager is overwhelming. You never want to stick out and isolate yourself from the rest of the crowd. So for kids, of course, it's the worst thing imaginable to be singled out and to be villainized. They don't want that, and so instead it's easy to conform. But I think that the truth will out, and in time we will be vindicated, because the truth does not fear being investigated.
Okay, another question then. How do we make it cool for kids to fight for freedom? Because I was actually you only had two options and you both went off on rants. How do you make it? And you got to look at my age. As far as I'm concerned, I thought you were like 20, and I thought you were about 20 the same. There's
my son's closer to 20.
So this is how it is. That's what they've marketed our kids. It's cool to be compliant. How do we market them? And I tell you, it's possible, and it works this way. This is anyone my age, say this lovely young man here. On Monday, he'd bring a yo-yo into school. On Tuesday, 20 people here would have a yo-yo. On Wednesday, we'd all have yo-yos. And on Thursday, they'd ban yo-yos. But this kid, he was the one that made it cool to have yo-yos, and everyone followed him. Yep. If you get one young kid in a school to make it cool to be a freedom fighter, the others will join it.
That's true.
If the boys think it's sexy and the girls want to go out with them because they're freedom fighters, the boys will come across.
Absolutely. Yep. So we need to be educating young people and encouraging them to do that, to be leaders in their own circles at a young age. And exactly, like Lily, who's fantastic. She's been involved in so many events. Yes. Yeah.
Lily's cool.
Yeah, she's awesome. So when you do stand out and you're proud and you're uncompromising, and people can see that you're not just saying things, you truly believe it, and you're living it out, and you're that example, that living, breathing example of what you're preaching, that's when you can really win over people. And if we can have confident young people who are willing to do that and put themselves at risk of being socially ostracized and demonized, and they come out of it clean as a whistle, not letting any of it bother them, that's how we can really start to have trendsetters in these younger generations to go and build that generational change.
Okay, another question then, to simplify it, what are the benefits to a young person to being a rebel as to be compliant?
Well, I have a 15-year-old son who desperately tries to fit in. My cure for that was embarrassing him constantly from a very young age, because if there's no sense of embarrassment and no sense of, well, you should have a sense of shame. You should still keep things quiet and private, but if you're out and loud and proud about who you are, you're not going to hide certain aspects of yourself just to keep along with the crowd. So I think teaching your kids, social embarrassment.
No, but I'm a kid. Look at me. I'm 15.
Yeah.
And I want to be compliant.
Yeah.
Sell me why I shouldn't. What is the benefit of being a rebel? Sell me 2 or 3 qualities of how my life will benefit if I go against the system and be a rebel. That's what we have to do. So no political talks of this.
Okay.
Sell it to me.
Done. In 3 years' time, when you leave for university or leave school, those friends aren't there. Those people that you are desperately trying to impress, they're gone. Yeah. You don't need to impress them anymore. So who are you going to be in 3 years' time? Are you still going to be impressing people that have left and are chasing their own dreams? Or are you going to be so secure in who you are and what you believe in that you can go out as an 18-year-old with no friends and stand on your own? So we've got to remind them that, yes, it's important now, but in 3 years' time, who are you going to be? So if you want to be cool and march through the streets with a megaphone screaming, you can stick your New World Order up your ass and have fun, go and do it. If you still want to be keeping quiet to impress the people at the workplace, then that's your choice.
Now see, this is what I'm talking about. These discussions and questions we got to have. We have to clarify what we're marketing to the community. Why they should join us. What benefits do they have? We're asking them to walk away from their house, walk away from jobs, to join us, and to do that. So some people are going, why should I do that? If I stay here, I've got to lie, got to hide and lie, got to take this vaccination, but you guys have got nothing. You stand in the parks, you freeze your butts off, whatever. Why should I do that? We have...
It makes us happy. When you've got nothing to lose.
We're already there.
What are they going to take away from you?
That's it.
Yeah. If you've got nothing to lose, if you're not attached to the materialism and your house and your job and you're something outside of what your role says, then what are they going to take from you? You're happy. As hard, yeah.
And I think if you have a strong spiritual foundation as well with that child, then you can hammer home that it's more important to be standing in truth than it is to be standing outside of truth just for that protection, because ultimately those falsehoods will fall away and then you'll be left in the dust.
Yeah.
But how can we market it towards kids? Well, I mean, there have been so many...
we don't have to come up with the answer now, but it sits there to think this is what we have to do.
Well,
we have to market these things.
Maybe for a 15-year-old boy saying, in 3 years' time you'll be able to go to your mates, I told you so. That might work too.
With boys, I hate to say this, I know this sounds old-fashioned, but with boys, you want to get a boy to be a rebel, he's got to realise he can pick up chicks. You get a 15-year-old kid doesn't care about all these things you're talking about. That's you. You get a 15-year-old boy thinking, if I'm a rebel, I'm going to get more attractive to women. I'm there. I don't care about my education. I don't care about the future. But if I think I'm going to stand out with the chicks, I'm there. The girls, I don't know. But the boys are this. Come up.
I'll go. It was lovely meeting you. Thank you.
Okay, so I used to teach French in high school, right? And if there was one thing that would excite the boys about learning French, I said it was a draw card to meet the girls.
Yep.
Even the soldiers that fought in the Second World War will say that. So it's a draw card, and yeah, I know you don't want to say sex attracts things, but it does. That's just the way us human beings work.
I did cooking in high school, not because I wanted to cook, but because it was all women in the class, or girls. That was it. I was shit at cooking, but that's why I was there.
I suppose another thing you could use as a marketing tool is the idea of having fertile, unvaxxed sperm and eggs, and having a viable dating market that's actually going to be able to reproduce and have children and continue on to the future. I mean, that's a pretty easy sell for myself. I don't know about some of these kids, but
unvaccinated sperm last count was worth 22,000. So you could tell a kid, listen, all that stuff you're doing in your room, that could put you in the top 1%, buddy. There's
start collecting it.
But the other thing to do, and this is really important, the boys are easier. The thing is, how do we get the girls over? Now, I've met a lot of young, strong, freedom-fighting women, and yeah, perfect. We get the girls over, the boys will follow. I know that sounds but not all of them, but I do believe it. So how do we make it cool for young women to go, no, I'm fighting for freedom, defining what freedom is. I actually have a deep belief, it's the third time I've said that, I've never said that before, there's that young women are basically imprisoned from childhood. I remember at one Christmas I had to go buy my kids some toys, and my boy had all this shelves and shelves of things he could be. But my girl just had these dolls looking like women she'd never going to be like, cooking, and a few cleaning things. That was it. And everything was designed, as I was watching my daughter, who as a young girl adored herself, everything was designed to make my daughter feel like she wasn't good enough, so that she was going to spend her life upset, buying shit, so that she could try and make herself feel good, and then it went from there. And so I think young women need to be free of us, to be the absolutely 100% themselves, and that's what you can be. You can be yourself in the freedom movement, and we will love you for it.
My friend Marty just...
No. You want to speak, you get in.
He should. He's got some words of wisdom from the original PR master.
Okay, here we go.
Fascinating discussion. I had to interject.
Yeah, it's called a conversation. We stopped at the museum and picked it up and brought it over.
It's a bit old-fashioned, a bit of a throwback. So I remembered there was a gentleman by the name of Edward Bernays who wrote a book called Propaganda in the early 20th century, and he was hired by the cigarette companies to popularize smoking with women. Yeah, and he tied it into the feminist movement, and he worked with Hollywood to make it seem like cool and austere and mysterious, and also tied it into feminism and self-liberation.
Yep, there were torches of freedom.
Torches of freedom is what they referred to them
as.
as.
The words, the marketing words.
Yeah.
What they're doing against us. That's what we've got to do back.
Yeah. Essentially, so take from that what you will. I don't have the answers, but
we need our own torches of freedom, Marty.
We need our own torches of freedom.
That was the same with diamonds. Diamonds went anywhere.
De Beers Corporation.
Diamonds are a girl's best friend. Now every poor schmuck has to buy his girlfriend a diamond. Looks at it, goes, it looks like glass. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, before the De Beers Corporation, Now it became the norm to require 3 months worth of wages to buy a diamond ring to show your dedication to a woman, and now that's like the norm. It's like white teeth. Where did the whole idea of white teeth come from, right? Like, who cares about white teeth? When I see a person with pure white teeth, I feel uncomfortable. I'm like, that's unnatural. It's like...
But our side has done it.
Now you got to invest in like this UV light to put in your mouth so you can fit in with this preconceived notion of beauty. Like, what?
But look at one of freedom's greatest symbols is Che Guevara. Most people wear him, never know even who he is or watch him, but they wear a t-shirt, they'll put him up. He's become a symbol of it. Gandhi didn't do it. No one has pictures of Gandhi, walks around with Gandhi t-shirts, even though he did more. But Che Guevara did it. Bob Marley is a symbol of freedom. People have Bob Marley even though they don't feel his music. It's possible. I actually think we're in a marketing war at the moment. They're doing a better job, but we've got a better product. We just got to learn how to market it.
Absolutely, yeah. It comes down to like the media organizations that have been pushing these lies upon these lies upon society. I'm preaching to the choir here, but you probably all know that the government gave full tax subsidies to all of the major media organizations to report what they wanted them to report. So that's millions of dollars incentive for them to lie and become prostitutes. So that's what we're fighting against. We're fighting against a PR guerrilla war against corporations worth millions of dollars, but we have the truth on our side.
That's right.
And when you can break through that conditioning, which takes time, the truth always wins in the end. And even though history is written by the victors and they can lie about us in the future, we know that we stand on the side of truth. We know that. And when you can connect with a person on a spiritual, personal level, every single seed that you plant is important.
What's your name, brother?
Martin.
I love it. Let's stop that one there.